It's not where you come from, it's where you belong. Nothing I would trade, I wouldn't have it any other way. You're surrounded by love and you're wanted, so never feel alone.
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. This video is going to be much different than my other ones for two reasons. One, I'm not usually shown in my videos on my channel, but this one I am obviously going to be shown, but and two, I just think I'm ready to make this video. I've been on YouTube since 2016, that's when I made this channel, so I figured it would be a good time to make this video. So before I even start, if you probably already know by the title of this video, but I'm just gonna say that I'm gay, and I'm just gonna pretty much be telling you about my coming out story. And this isn't really like, my story isn't really like one of those kind of stories that I get kicked out of the house or like I get disowned or anything like that. This is more of like, my story's more not happy, but more like not as bad as others, and I'm just was lucky, so this one's hopefully can help other like teens or maybe even adults who are LGBTQ, and it can show how like not every coming out story has to be on the bad side, because I don't think I've even had a bad coming out experience. I've just had an interesting one that's kind of like unfortunate, but it wasn't like bad or anything. So I think we're just gonna start from like the beginning and then come up to now. So I'm just gonna start now. So actually I honestly didn't know what gay meant until I was in 7th grade. So I was kind of like a little dumb kid, honestly. Like, maybe not dumb, but I didn't really know what gay meant until my 7th grade. Until I was in 7th grade. But I did have like, I knew I was like different when I was in elementary school. I just didn't know how it was different. Because in elementary school, all my friends were girls, except I had one friend who was a boy. The rest were all girls, and like I found it hard kind of to make friends, and all the friends I made were all girls, and so that wasn't really when I thought I was different. Is when like I kind of had thoughts like when I was in elementary school and saying like what it would be like to be with a guy, because like I would watch movies when there was like married or together or something, and I would think of like like I wonder what it would be like if it was a guy, or I was with, or like someone was with a guy and a guy or something like that. So that I was kind of like, this is different and like stuff like that. And my dad actually found out or figured out I was gay before I even really knew what that meant, because actually my parents signed me up for this class in 7th grade that was at a church close by to my house, and yeah, it was at a church, believe it or not, and it was a class called Our Whole Lives, kind of, and we just called it owls, like OWL for short, and it's sort of a way to learn about sexuality and like health, and like kind of like it's kind of like, it wasn't just sexuality, it was kind of like other stuff that I'm not really gonna get into because it's like parts of the body, kind of like stuff like that. And I'm not gonna lie, I hated that class for the first couple of weeks because I would have it every Sunday for a year for like 2.5 hours, and I'm not gonna lie, I hated it. And I like so much that I like, before I would have to go, I'd be like in a chair in our kitchen like crying, saying I don't want to go. But I did always go, and I actually made a friend there that's now one of my best friends, and I'm still friends with him now. So that was really awesome, and that was kind of when I started figuring out, saying like, wait, I might actually be gay. And the teacher who taught it was gay, and this was during my 7th grade year. So I was like kind of questioning, like trying to figure out my sexuality and stuff. And all when this was happening, there was this girl in my grade who had this huge crush on me, and it was pretty uncomfortable and funny and embarrassing, because there are some moments that were kind of uncomfortable, some moments that were funny, some were embarrassing, so it's like a bit of everything. Because like the first time I found out, she literally stood up in the middle of one of my classes and asked me out, and like I'm like I said no, I'm sorry, and then like she asked me again like a week later, and I just like hit my head on the table like, you asked me this last week, it's still gonna be the same answer. And then eventually I like wrote a letter to like just like I didn't couldn't just talk to her, so I wrote a letter after school and gave it to her saying like, hey, like I don't like you like that, but we can still be friends, sorry. And so this was on a Friday after school, so I was kind of glad about that, because that way she could go home for the weekend and cool off, I guess, or like not cool off, but process what I wrote. So yeah, and then the next week, um, this was before we had our own computers or Chromebooks and stuff, so we all had to be on the same Google Doc for the whole class. And I remember I was on the page, and then she goes to the page I'm on and literally types in, "Hey, will you go out with me now?" Like, Noah, will you come out with me now? Go out with me now. And time no, cause I'm like, okay. And then she started writing me these love letters, like she slipped them in my locker or something, and that was strange. I usually just threw them away until my parents told me to keep them to see what she wrote, and a lot of times they're just like I have a crush on you, I want to go out with you, or like the random love letters. So yeah, and then after that, it kind of was quiet for a few weeks. Like I wouldn't hear from her, nothing would really happen. So I thought it was kind of like, okay, good. She was like, it's kind of over. And then Valentine's Day comes around, and I'm on the student council in middle school. I'm not in high school, but in middle school I was part of the student council, and I had to be part of the breakfast. So I would help serve the breakfast with two of my friends every day before school. And there's always a long line, like maybe 50, 55 people or something. And I remember it was like the day before or after Valentine's Day, because it wasn't on Valentine's Day, no, but she like kind of shoved through the line and gave me this huge stuffed animal dog with like holding a heart. I'm like, oh my god, just like why? So like I'm just like, okay, I'm like, okay, thanks. And two of my friends are right next to me, like friends I've known since elementary school. And when this bell rang to start school, it barely fit in my locker, but it did. So I'm just like, okay, it's not over now. So then my parents were like, if this keeps going, we might have to get involved and like get the school involved and stuff. And then she wrote me this letter saying she demanded why she did not she demands to know why I didn't like her. And this, like, I still wasn't sure if I was gay or not. Like, this was a whole figuring it out thing. And then she somehow got my phone number, and I never gave it to her, so she must have gotten off of a phone book or something. And then my parents actually got involved, and she finally stopped. And then she, for the rest of the year, like even if we're in the same class, the teacher we had to be like on different sides of the room or different groups or something. And there were times she tried to get into my group when we got to choose, but the teacher would always be like, no, sorry, I can't choose another group. And then she left the middle school the next year, so I kind of just got away from that, and that was really nice. And also in 7th grade, I forgot to say this, was when I started forming a major crush on Josh Hutcherson, which is PETA from Hunger Games, and this poster back here, like, that's like kind of what really got me, cause like I had this huge crush on him, like I would like, was going through that whole phase, like I still have it, but I have a blanket with PETA on it, like over here from my, bed. I have like a lanyard that has PETA on it. So I was kind of like in a Hunger Games phase with Josh Hutcherson and stuff, and that kind of drove my family a bit nuts. So that's when I kind of like, oh yeah, I probably am gay, and like all my favorite characters were guys, and movies and TV shows and stuff. So I'm like, yeah, I'm probably gay, and I found out my dad actually has known since I was about 11 or 12, so I didn't have to tell him or come out to him at all. So I remember like one night we were lying in bed together, and he's like, he said like, just mentioned how like, asked me like, what are some cute guys in your shows? And I'm like, what? Or it went something like that, and he's like, yeah, I kind of figured out you were gay and stuff. I'm like, okay, cool. And then for maybe like every night for like a month, like on the first day I would name like I would say like 20 guys who I thought were attractive in my movies and TV shows. And this is when I only knew like Divergent, Hunger Games, Maze Runner, some other Disney Channel shows and stuff like that. So I would just name like 20 some guys I thought were attractive, and then every night I would take away someone that I didn't like. I would take away someone that I didn't think was most attractive, and then we kept doing this until the last night. It was like we knew who was the most attractive guy, and that was kind of funny to be honest, because like I remember that pretty clearly, and my dad's like, when are you gonna come out and tell my mom? So I'm like, this one about 13, and I said I'm probably gonna come out to her like on my 14th birthday or around when I turn 14. So my 14th birthday rolls around, and then apparently my grandpa invited me and my brother to go on a trip to California to visit, not them because they live in Georgia, but they have family in California, so I'm like, sure, I can go, but my brother never went, so it was just me, and this was the day after my 14th birthday, and I'm pretty sure my mom was like out of town that day, and then, like on the second night, the second day I was in California, my mom went to my grandma's house with my brother, so I decided to, since I was with my grandparents, and they're kind of conservative, like, I think they know. I've never told them personally, but I did ask recently for a book called Queer Eye, so I might have just outed myself to them, but they just really have no reaction. I said thanks, they're like, sure, you're welcome. So I have a feeling they do know, I haven't personally told them, and this was back when I was 14, so I didn't know how they were going to react. So I remember texting my mom when I was at dinner, and I was in LA, so there's a lot of gay couples just around, and I text my mom saying, hey, could I tell you the secret I've been kind of keeping? And she's like, sure. So I'm like saying like, hey, I'm gay. And she's like, okay, thanks for letting me know. Like this, like I still love you and stuff like that. So then when I came back to the hotel room, I kind of went to the bathroom and then just talked to her on the phone for maybe 30 minutes, talking about like how, like thanks for coming out to me and stuff like this. And it was like that kind of stuff. Like right after I came out to her, we just talked about stuff and how my trip was going and stuff, and I got to go to like Universal Studios, I got to go to Disneyland, I got to go to the Harry Potter world and other stuff like that. So that was pretty cool, and then I started watching these shows with gay characters in them, and it made me feel much better, and my throat is gonna kind of... So that was kind of like on my middle school kind of coming out journey. So, and also I think it was either my 8th grade year or my freshman year of high school when I came out to my closest friends, like friends I've known since elementary school or friends I've just known for a while, and most of them are just like, this doesn't change anything. We could like I still love hanging out with you. This like doesn't really change anything, and that was really nice. And they kind of all had the same reactions. And when I came out to a friend I've known since I was in 2nd grade, and he's like, I kind of knew, but he didn't really want to like mention anything. So he's like, could kind of figure it out, but not really, because like we both share the very like same interests in movies, and we like live so close to each other. And he's pretty much the only friend that lives in my neighborhood, so I hang out with him a lot, and he's just kind of just like I kind of had a feeling you were, but I just didn't want to say anything until you were ready to. So I remember that was pretty cool, and he was perfectly fine with it. We still hang out today and stuff like that. So, like I said, this isn't like really anything bad has happened really, or like this. I guess it's just to show like how sometimes coming out can be a good thing almost. Like I haven't made more friends per se, but I mean like it definitely makes you feel more free and have your friends like be with you, like, and know they're gonna be there for you and stuff like that. So then I started high school, and I only three of my friends from middle school. I had about like 10, 15 friends at my middle school. And only three was going to the same high school I was going, and those were the three friends I've known since elementary school. And one of them I've known since sixth grade, but we're still pretty close. And we had no classes together, and I only had lunch with one of my friends. So I'm like, I should make some new friends, but I'm a little freshman in high school. I don't really know what to expect. My high school had 2,000 students. My middle school had 600 students. So that was kind of like, okay, I'm starting a new school. This is kind of terrifying, but I'm just going to go through this and see how I do. And maybe like 2 weeks passed. It was fun. Didn't really make any new friends or anything. And then in my cooking class, we got assigned groups for each kitchen. And this junior got put in my group, and we started talking about like we had to make this poster about like knife safety or like safety about the tools in the kitchen or something. And we started talking about like stuff about us and stuff. And then like we became friends like that period. And that was pretty cool because like he's 2 years older than me, and we became really close that year. I honestly, I had never told him this because I didn't get the guts to, but I actually formed a crush on him my freshman year, and he did theater. I wanted to do theater. I just was too scared to, and he's kind of like a role model to me in high school because he was the real first friend I made in high school. And my brother, like a week before I started high school, my brother, who's like he's 15, I'm 17, but we're 4 grades apart because he's a freshman this year, I'm a senior this year. So and he's like said you should make more friends who are boys because I only had one really good friend that was a boy before going to high school, and this was a guy, and we became really close my freshman year. I went to all of his like performances. He did great. He was in the lead role for our one act, and I saw him singing our cabaret, which is this song, and like that was really fun. And I remember we got really close to him, and then I met his brother, who's my grade, and I'm not really that close with him anymore, but we hung out a lot, and my friend, his brother, worked at our movie theater just down the street, and I remember I got into some movies free because of that, and that was really cool. And I didn't really see him that much that summer because we were kind of all busy. And this is the summer I met my best friend who I met in that OWL class, who lives 2.5 hours away from me. He said there was the gay guy he knew, so he gives me his phone number, and we talk a lot, like all summer long. We just talked. So we talked so much, we just got pretty close. We were planning to meet each other on my birthday, because my birthday's in mid-July and it's still summer. So I went to my grandma's house, who lives about an hour away from them. It's like in between where I live and they live. And he said he could come and we can meet, but then he never shows up. And that was kind of sad, and I was still planning to go to that other friend's house. And then we kind of talked a bit less as it went on, and then my sophomore year started, and he texted me saying, hey, I might not be able to talk as much as I used to because of school. I'm like, yeah, I understand. So I'm just like, yeah, I understand this. Like, that's totally fine. I have school, so like, we can talk maybe like once a week or something. So I text him like maybe like once every like week, but he never responds. So I kind of stopped for maybe 2 months, and then I talked to my other friend, the friend who's friends with him, and he said they don't talk anymore, like something happened. So I'm like, oh, okay, so should I just leave him alone or something? So I texted him maybe 4 times more, like once every week, and they never responded. So I kind of just gave up on it, and it was kind of sad because like we were both gay, and like we were starting to like not date, but like kind of starting to get to know each other and kind of get closer. But so I kind of just never texted him again until I had help with cabaret, because I did theater this year thanks to that guy, and I came out to him also my sophomore year, I'm pretty sure, and he was just like, he's like, cool, this is perfectly fine, like we can still be friends, stuff like that. So I feel like maybe he knew I had a crush on him. I don't know. I'm not sure how obvious it was. He just never said anything about it, and I never said anything about it. And I was at a cabaret, and I had to be in the back to and adjust between like the sets between each song, and then I went to the back room to get a like a cookie or like some snack, and I came back, and apparently the person who I was doing the crew with went to my phone and thought it'd be funny to just randomly text the person on my contacts list, and it was that guy. And I'm like, why did you do this? And she's like, I thought it'd be funny. So I'm like, okay. And then this next morning, I find a text from him, and I got really not excited, but I was kind of surprised. I'm like, whoa, he actually wrote back. And then he writes back saying, who is this? And I'm like, I just thought maybe you forgot. So I said, it's Noah. Like, we talked all summer long last summer. And he's like, sorry, I don't know anyone by that name. And I'm like, but we talked, and like, you know, my friend, and where my friend lived. And he was like, I live in Wyoming. No, not Wyoming, sorry. He said, I live in Colorado. And I'm like, but you lived in Nebraska. Like, it's like, no, I don't know anyone by that name. And then I talked to my other friend, and he texts him through Instagram, and apparently he lied, and he still lived in Nebraska. He would just pretend to be a different person, and my friend screenshot that conversation and sent to me, and it's pretty much he just said, like, he talked way too much, and don't tell him this, but like, I just can't talk to him anymore. And this is, I know I can talk a lot, but I only text him like once a week or something. I don't text him like multiple times a day. And he never even met me in person. And I even said happy birthday to him because I remembered his birthday. And he just like, I'm sorry, I can't do this anymore. Like, just tell him we broke up. And I'm like, wait, were we ever really dating? Because like, he said his parents wouldn't let him date until he was a senior in high school, and he was a freshman. So I'm like, were we ever dating? Because like, I did not think we were dating. And then my friend said, I'm sorry, no, this is kind of what happened. I'm like, oh, it's fine. And then I kind of told some of my friends, they all were like, he's an idiot, bastard, stuff like that. So I'm like, I kind of moved on from that. That was kind of a sad moment, but some guys are like that. So I kind of just moved on. And this was like some of my sophomore year. And I met a new friend actually, the end of my freshman year, like the last month of my freshman year, we sat next to each other in our geometry class, and he seemed pretty cool, except we seemed like we had a lot, like we didn't have much in common, because like he played football, I don't really play football, I don't play sports, we seemed pretty opposite, stuff like that, but we still kind of hung out, we exchanged phone numbers, we hung out a bit that summer, and then, so, I'm trying to remember what happened. So, I'm still friends with him today. Like, he's one of my best friends now. But, and I don't think he really came. Oh, I did come out to him my sophomore year. And he's like, it's fine. Like, just know I'm not gay. I'm straight and stuff. But, like, he said it was totally fine. But he told me he's straight. So, like, and just to let me know. And he's like, I'm not gay, but, like, I totally accept gay, and like I don't have any problem with it, so that's pretty nice. And he got a girlfriend, so we didn't really talk much, but we went to the same school, we were the same grade, we had some class together, so not like I never saw him ever again. So that was pretty fun, and because like we had the same lunch period, we got to talk, and then I got diagnosed with an anxiety disorder, so I would get panic attacks, and he would help me through them, and we got really close our sophomore year, and then like we saw this movie. Well, we didn't see it together, but he said you should watch this movie, it's really good, and it was The Incredibles 2, and it was really good, and I told him how what if I found it funny, like I pretty much told him about the scene in the movie that I found really funny, and if you have seen The Incredibles, you might remember this. But I remember the family being in the restaurant, and the girl's crush was their waiter, and when she sees him, water squirts out of her nose. So I told him that was pretty funny, and I said, I hope that doesn't happen in front of my crush. And he's like, who is your crush? And I'm just like, I rather not say because this might get awkward. So I'm just looking at our text from back then, and he's like, I said I think you might know who it is though, and he's like, I might, and I said I kept giving him clues, and he's like our grade. Well, I'm like our grade, and he's like, if so, you don't have to be embarrassed, but I think I might know who it is. And I'm like, who do you think? And he's like, do I know him well? And I'm like, yeah, I think you know him pretty well. And you can probably see where this is going. And he's like, is it potentially myself? And I'm like, yeah. And this is like the best thing ever. And he's said, well, it's been 10 seconds and I don't feel much different. You're cool, Noah, and it's flattering that you like me. And I'm like, yeah, true, and thanks. You're both, like, I wrote both. I didn't mean to write both, but, I said you're straight, but it kind of is what it is, because, like, not many people are, like, gay, and, like, I kind of was expecting this to be straight. And he's like, you definitely know that I'm straight, but I want you to know that this doesn't change our friendship. So that was made me really happy. So I told him, saying, like, I'm like, I never thought you were gay. You have a girlfriend, but that meant a lot to me, and like you're like the best friend anyone could ask for, stuff like that. And then he's like, I'm really glad that you see that in me, Noah, and I'm really glad that you're my friend. So then he goes way off topic and says, so anyway, how's Transformers been? Because he got me into Transformers that year. I borrowed his movies he had, and I was watching it, and I just started talking about how good Transformers is. So that was a pretty awesome part, because like he found out that I crushed on him. I still come to, but it was like the best reaction ever. We're still really close. We had a class together last semester. We have lunch together this semester. We hang out a lot. We just haven't hung out a lot this year because of the pandemic and stuff. But if it wasn't for the pandemic, we would hang out a lot more than we actually did. And he's one of my best friends now, and it was just that was like the best feeling ever. And then I sort of like I joined the Pride Club at my school, and I got to be part of the student panel, because apparently those like teachers have to go to these certain panels at my school, and they have tons to choose from, and there was an LGBT student panel with teachers, and we kind of taught, and the teachers would listen. And apparently I was the only gay male in the club at the time, because the head of the club wanted to have like a bisexual person, a lesbian, a trans person, a pansexual person. So we had like 2 pansexual, we had 2 like transgender, we had 1 bisexual, we had like 2 lesbians, but I was only gay male. So she asked me, saying, hey, would you feel comfortable doing this? I'm like, yeah, sure, I wouldn't mind. Because they were teachers, and like they chose to do it. So like someone asked, and like, hey, like what if the teachers don't really agree with us, or like accept gay people? But we found out that they could choose from panels, and the LGBT student panel was actually a choice. So all these teachers choose to see this so that they like could see how our lives are like and how these are. So we pretty much went into I got to leave maybe 15 minutes before the end of the day for my last period of the day, because it was after school, and we went to this back room in our media center library, and we could kind of discuss like what we were gonna say and like how it was gonna go. So then we go to the classroom, and there's so many teachers in there. Like some were literally standing in that room. Like every single seat we were taking, and there's 2 per table. So there's like 30, 40 teachers in there, and we're like, oh my gosh, this is so much more than we thought. And my mom's a teacher at my school, and she showed up there actually, so that was pretty cool. And about half the teachers I've had in the past were there, so that was pretty cool. So I sat down in the middle, like not the middle, but the front of the table, and I was in the middle, and we kind of had to go through the lines and like our name, grade, and like sexual orientation. So we said like, so I'm like, hey, my name's Noah, I was a junior, and I'm gay and stuff like that. And then pretty much when we went through it, we had the teachers ask questions like saying like, hey, like what exactly does pansexual mean, or like how does this feel when do you ever feel like not safe at school or something like that? Because like we were trying to make my school a better place, I guess, because like none of them really said that they got bullied or anything, but they do sometimes feel like they don't want to go because they're afraid of being bullied if someone found out about it. So we kind of came up, and the teachers came up with some strategies saying like, hey, like, if you like, because me included, but like every single person in that panel said like they hear all the time in the hall saying how people joke about gay and being like that's so gay or something, and we all hated that. So the teachers are like, if we hear this, we're just gonna stop it. And then I noticed more of the teachers like on the class syllabus or like the rules, it's always says like this is like bully free and like non-racist or like, and then safe place, and it's like you can't say anything racist or like homophobic or anything in there. So that's pretty cool. And there's like always a pride prom in my district, and each high school hosts it a different year. And last year it was supposed to be our high school that was supposed to host it, and my mom was gonna chaperone there, and I was gonna plan on going. Not really with anyone because I didn't really have any gay friends. All my gay friends were girls, and they couldn't go, so I was gonna go by myself. And this was supposed to be in May, but since COVID happened, it never happened. So that was kind of sad, but it was kind of cool to know that we have pride proms in my city and that they happen every year. I'm not sure about this year because I haven't heard anything about it, but hopefully there's one of those, and it just feels like everyone's like becoming more and more okay and open about it, because I can't feel comfortable just saying like if I met a new friend, and like not just like the whole class or like the whole school or anything like that or the whole grade, just like if I met a new friend or like a friend saying like, hey, like, and then I kind of just might say like, tell them I'm gay. They're just like, most people don't really have a reaction, but like it's not a bad reaction. They're just like, okay, cool, and they kind of just go on with their work. So I'm like, so it's nothing like when my best friend did when he found out I questioned him, or like they just completely like just not talk to me ever again. They're just like, okay, cool, and then they just kind of go on with their business, and we still talk. We were still friends. So it's like stuff like that kind of happens. And there was this one person that was kind of, it wasn't like a bad coming out experience. It was just not it's definitely my worst out of all the ones I've had. But compared to other coming out stories I've heard, it's not nearly as bad, if that makes any sense. So this was actually my sophomore year. I met a new friend, and he was a good friend of the friend who I had a crush on. And so I kind of come out to him after like maybe like 3 or 4 months of knowing him, and he's just kind of like, he's like, okay, cool, that's fine. And then I find out he's religious, and he like reads the Bible every day and stuff. So I'm like, oh. But like this was after I came out to him, and he seemed pretty cool about it. So I'm like, okay, this might not be as bad as I thought. And then fast forward a year, and this is the summer going into junior year. We're both the same grade, and I'm in Canada on a family trip. And then I get a text from him. We don't usually text, so I get a text from him saying, hey, like, do you want to hang out sometime? And I'm kind of surprised, but I'm kind of happy at the same time, because this is before like anything bad really happened. So I'm like, yeah, sure. I'm in Canada right now. Won't be back for another week and a half or 2 weeks, but we can hang out like when I come back. And he's like, sure. And then I'm like, hey, like, whose house do you want to hang out at, or like, what movie do you want to see? Because that's usually how like my friends hang out. But he's like, actually, could we go to like a coffee shop and just talk over coffee? I'm like, sure. And I was getting kind of like, this is kind of weird, but I love coffee, and like I'm like, okay, sure. So we decided to meet at a coffee shop somewhere, and I got there before him, so I was kind of just like just chilling there, reading, drinking my coffee. And then he comes, and we start talking, and then it was like we were just kind of talking about how we were, like what's going on, life updates, and then it started getting pretty strange. Like he pulls out a Bible from his backpack, and he told me to like read a part of the Bible, and I'm like, what? So like I'm just like, I'm not really like, I don't know how to say this without like offending anyone, but I'm just like, I've never read the Bible. I never really went to church or anything and stuff like that. So I'm like, okay. So I'm reading a page, and usually I'm a pretty fast reader. I love reading. Like one of my favorite things to do is reading. but I couldn't really understand what they were saying. This was saying, so I kind of read through it for like several times, and then maybe like 5 minutes, 10 minutes later, he's like, "Are you done reading it?" And I'm like, "Yeah, but I don't really know what this is saying." Then he's like, "Well," and then like, "I guess you don't really believe in God, so that means you're going to hell." And I'm like, "Whoa, this went like downhill really fast," and I'm just like, so then I kind of like, and this and this wasn't really about being anything with, and then I'm like, so you just because I don't believe in like you don't think I believe in God doesn't mean I'm going to hell. He's like yeah, and also because you're gay. Like I'm fine with it, but that just means you're going to hell. I'm like oh my gosh. So then like I feel this panic attack coming, so I'm like oh crap, this is not a good time. So I kind of go to the bathroom and like I'm in there for maybe like 10 minutes, and he's just like chilling there. And then I'm like texting my mom, and like, my parents are like, hey, and like, could you pick me up in like 20 minutes? Because like, it's kind of far from my house, the place we chose. So it's going to be probably another 20 minutes before they came here. So I kind of just sit there kind of like awkwardly, just like, okay, this is just different. And then like, his older, like, brother, I think, or sister, one of those two, and like, came with their like spouse. And I'm just like, okay, this is weird. And this like he said he was okay with me being gay, just the whole like going to part is like I'm like okay this just went too far. So then when my parents pick me up, I leave. I like kind of stopped talking to him and stuff. I told my other friend who I said how I had a crush on him. This was after he found out I had a crush on him, and he asked me saying like hey so like do you ever have you and this guy hung out? And I'm like, yeah, but we don't really talk. We're not really talking anymore. And he asked me what happened. I told him. He got pretty mad at this. So he kind of just like not mad at me, but mad at the friend for saying this to me. And so I kind of spent a year not talking to him whatsoever, not seeing him until last semester. We on my school had to take the ACT. Usually juniors take it every year, but it was during COVID and school got canceled, so they pushed it to September of last year. So I had to take, and since I can take a test in a smaller room because of my Tourette syndrome and anxiety. So I took it in a smaller classroom, and a day or two before the test, they post on the wall like all the room assignments, and I looked, and I was in this room, and then the guy who I said about that whole coffee shop incident was in that room with like 4 other people. And I'm like, oh crap, this might be a bit weird. But since it was a test, we couldn't really talk much. So then we had a break in between. I went outside just to get a drink of water and just like kind of just stretch out and stuff. And he starts talking to me, and like I kind of start talking to him because like I wasn't gonna ignore him or anything. So that happened, and we started talking maybe for even afterwards. And he seemed pretty cool. He's like he seemed to forget about it, and like I forgive him. He's like he deserves a second chance, and I think he's just not used to, I feel like, knowing a gay person, or he just so used to his like parents, like how he was raised, I think, because I know he's like okay with me being gay. It's just the whole way he said it and how I was gonna go down, and was the part that made me questionable. But I'm like I'm gonna talk to him today, and if he brings it up, I'm just never gonna talk to him again. But he never brought it up. We just talked about how school was, like how things were going and stuff like that. So that was kind of nice. So I haven't talked to him since then, but because he's only in my school for maybe like for the first 4 periods of the day, and we don't have any periods together or classes, so I don't really talk to him. But like I guess when I talk to him, it's like nothing really bad happens. So that was kind of a nice thing, and that was like the only kind of bad, questionable coming out experience I had. But it wasn't like nearly as bad as others I've seen, or like people. I don't want to say how like. I'm not trying to say that. I'm not trying to like brag on that I had a good coming out experience, because like I was just lucky, I guess, and I just wanted to try and have this video be to show other gay like LGBT teens or adults like how like coming out can still be a good thing and not just a bad thing. So, and now today, like all my friends know, my family know, my grandma knows. Like I came out to my grandma also, and she just like I'm known for quite a while now, and she's like, I'm totally fine with it. I just known for a while, so. And then my brother, like, I told my brother, and he's like, he wasn't surprised either. So it's kind of like all my family members kind of figured it out a long time ago, and my friends, some like friends I've known for a long time, like my whole life, um, like so like I kind of had a hunch, but I didn't want to say anything. My newer friends are like, oh cool, but like this doesn't change anything and stuff like that. So that was really nice, and I remember like just last year I was gonna review a book on Amazon that I read, and I remember going to my dad's account and looking through the reviews he wrote because of other books he liked, and then the very first review, I'm like, this is it's really funny because it said like it was a book about a gay teenager, and the first sentence was my 12-year-old son is most likely gay, and this was before I knew like thought I was gay, and it was kind of funny, and I'm just like, oh wow, this is kind of cool actually. So like I might have a more like not good coming out in the future. I hope not, but that's just something you never really know. So that's pretty much like all as of now. Cause like I actually made a new friend this week. I kind of just like casually said it by accident because this past week it has not been the best in the news, and when like certain things happen in the news and politics wise, my anxiety tends to like go up a bit. And this was the first week of the semester, and I got new classes, new people, new schedule, and all that. Above that, like my anxiety was kind of bad. Sorry, well not bad, but it was like a bit higher than usual. And I tend to talk a lot when I'm nervous, and I kind of just casually accidentally said to him, saying like, "Hey, so I'm gay," and like he didn't have any reaction whatsoever. He just like, "Okay, cool," and then he kind of just went on with our thing that we had to do because we are partners in one of my classes because I'm on the yearbook class and we were the partners with the yearbook, and like I could tell he was okay with it. It just like that was kind of like if that's now the general reaction I get. I'm like, no, there's nothing bad wrong with that response. Obviously, it's just like it's nice to know that it's just like okay, cool now. It's like becoming more normal, I guess, because I feel like earlier it would be like, really, you are? This is the best thing ever, and I that's just my I totally forgot to. Sorry, my nose is really itchy today for some reason. I must have allergies, but I totally forgot about this one coming out also. Now, a friend I made the owl class, I came out to him, and he's like, "Oh my god, this is the best thing ever! Like, this is so amazing!" And I'm like, "Whoa, this is like the best reaction I've ever gotten." And we're still really good friends today. We talk all the time. We call. We sometimes Zoom call. I usually see him like 3 or 4 times a year, but I haven't seen him in person since last summer because of the pandemic and all. Because I usually see him on New Year's Day, my birthday, some and sometime like I think twice in the summer, my birthday, another time, and then like around fall break. But I didn't get to do any of that. But we still talk a lot, and we're still really good friends and stuff like that. So that was kind of like all my coming out experiences, and like I can always make an updated version of this when I come out to more people and when I'm like in college and stuff. Because I'm still in high school. I'm a senior, so I only have 5 more months of high school, and high school I've heard is like the worst place to be gay in and stuff. But honestly, I'm not sure it's the school I go to, the city I live in, or like the time I live in. It's just like maybe it's all three of those combined. It just there's not really the worst thing I've heard at the school is just people like teasing about being gay or like saying that's so gay or like stuff like that, and they're just like really idiot straight dudes or straight guys. So I'm just like, so that's like I don't like I'm not like offended by that. I just mean like I hate it when people say this because like it's more of like a pet peeve almost. I'm just like, because like you never know who's sitting right next to you. Like a gay person may be sitting right next to you, so like I never like come out to them saying, hey, really shouldn't say this or anything, because the teachers usually do that if teachers here. But if it's in the hall, there's nothing really I can do. It just I kind of shrug it off. It's just like it's just kind of annoying, I guess. There's nothing like I can tell them just joking about it. It's just like it's kind of like one of those things you can't really joke about. So yeah, it's just I guess that was my coming out story. I did not mean to make it this long. I'm so sorry, but thank you so much if you made it this far. So, like I said, this was a very different video, and I hope some of you guys can take this as like oh, like coming out thing may be a really good thing, or like it may just, or maybe just to share my story and you just like watching these kind of videos. But thank you so much for watching my video. I think I'm gonna be showing my next video also. I think I'm gonna be doing a room tour in my next video. So yeah, should be out in the next couple of days. Maybe today, maybe Monday, but sometime this week, I know. And I'm just thank you for like all these subscribers, and I hope you just like don't see me any differently as you always have. And I just like, it felt like such a, even this video doing it feels like it's so much more weight off me, because I've been on YouTube for 4 years now, and I'm pretty sure it's ready now. I was ready, and I hope this like helps other people. So thank you so much for watching this long video, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.